again. But it's the only way.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It's me, Steve Wraith, and as always, joined by my two amigos, which makes three, Mitch and Steve Hasty. How are you, lads?
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Steve.
Good to see you, lads. And I'm sure, like you, we're all a little concerned about what's going on in the world around us. Andre, of course, tuned Saturday 300 miles away from what's going on in the Ukraine. Mitch, Steve Bennett, of course. You wanted to give a shout out to him tonight because he's in his family's obviously all safe. You were saying, but obviously there's still a bit of concern.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Steve will probably be in the chat if he isn't already. People know I know him because he works in Saudi. He's often here in Dubai, bounces between the two places. But what people might know is his family home's in Kiev. Now, most of his family are already safe, but his wife's still trying to make her way to the Polish border. So Godspeed to her at the moment. I spoke to him just before we came on. He said none of the messages he's sent in the last 3 hours have gone through. So there's obviously communication issues. So hopefully she's going to get herself safe with the rest of the family in Poland. And hopefully we'll see them all in Dubai soon and we'll be able to commiserate together. I know all of Steve, all your friends here in Dubai are thinking of you, mate. And I'm sure all the NUFC Matters community are behind you too, mate. And Godspeed to her. And We'll get you through it, mate. Like we've been through bloody pandemics and all sorts. Who would have thought would have been here now? Love you to bits, mate. And we're all thinking of you.
Yeah. From everybody at NUFC Matters, Steve, we're thinking of you. And fingers crossed your lass is okay, and you can be reunited soon. I'm sure, Steve, do you want to pass on the same sentiments?
Absolutely. I mean, it's worrying times for everybody. You know, the people that we know. I used to have clients in Kiev, clients in Poland, and you just think about it and you just think, this is Europe. This is 2022. It's not 1942. It's just unbelievable what's going on, and you just got to say Godspeed and hope everybody, we can get this resolved pretty quickly. In a peaceful way as possibly can, and we can all move on and grow up about it, But yes, terrible times, and not what you expect to be talking about on a Friday night, Steve.
No, definitely not. And as I say, it's something that's dominated the news. I've literally walked around with Sky News on all day to try and get an update on what is going on. It's horrific. It's horrendous. We don't wish this on anybody, and the poor Ukrainians are really going through it. And this could get bigger, could get worse. Typical. Newcastle get a takeover, and the whole world falls apart. You couldn't write it. I think what we'll do is we'll lighten the mood a little bit earlier. Here's Elliot. I don't know why I still laugh at that obese parrot joke. Like I see it every week. It gets funnier every week. This is this week's joke from Elliot. Every time I get something stuck in my throat, I just dislodge it by drinking a pint of lager. It's called the Heineken maneuver.
Oh, dear.
Oh, God.
Oh, Elliot, man. Oh.
I thought you'd like that one, Mitch. That was dedicated to you.
Love it, man.
Good stuff. We'll have more of Elliot next week, and thanks for continuing to support NUFC Matters. Means a lot. Okay, then, football. Let's get round to what this show is all about, Mitch. And from our point of view, it was another point. We discussed it briefly on Geordie's here. Geordie's there on Wednesday, but it was an important point that last week, wasn't it?
An important point, a hard-fought point. I think it showed elements of character within the squad and within the team that really show how much of a difference and how much of a change we've undergone. To go to a team that the press are desperate to get involved in the Champions League race, and come away feeling that we could have had all three, not just 1 point. I think it's fantastic. I think it shows how far we've come. And missing players still. That wasn't necessarily your first 11 for one reason or another. But to not just grind it out. We look good at times. We look really good at times. The work rate was fantastic. The work ethic is amazing at the moment, I think. Dan Burn looks like he's been in that back four for years. I still am amazed at somebody who can cushion a header the way he can. I've not seen that for such a long time. So yeah, to come away from there feeling not quite hard done by, but like we could have had all 3 points quite easily. And yet again, the media come out with tripe about how it was West Ham having a bad game. So apparently we've gone 6 games unbeaten and everybody's had bad games. And it's nothing to do with us. It's nothing to do with us. They've all just had bad games. Well, that's a fortunate little run of form, isn't it? And they can say what they want. I'm at the point, and we'll probably touch on other things later on today. I'm at the point where I genuinely don't care what they're right now. Just crack on. We'll worry about us and let us worry about us, and we'll enjoy it on the way.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Steve, big point that last week. I mean, West Ham are flying high, and Newcastle went down there and probably pulled off one of the best performances of the season. It has to be said.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that for long stretches of the game we were the better team. I thought what was really, really good was we took the game to them. They were on the back foot at times, and at times as well. When you look at the possession that we had, it looked as though that we were the home team, or certainly on the stats situation, it looked like we're playing like the home team. And right across the back four, I know people will criticise Emil Kraft for the free kick, giving it away in the position he did, but I thought attacking wise, I thought he put in a great shift, nice steady shift. Little bit concerned, mate, sitting here watching Mitch with a Chelsea shirt behind him. I presume he's in the shed somewhere.
I'm at Chelsea Robs, mate. I'm at the bar for a change because there's not a lot going on, and it's reasonably quiet enough to get down here. Yeah, that has nothing to do with me. Disclaimer.
Yeah, but getting back to the performances, very, very professional. There's a camaraderie, there's a team ethic that's now being developed by Eddie Howe that's coming to the fore. You're seeing players really, really buying into what he's doing. What I would say about Dan Burn and the cushioned headers, you've got to remember, Mitch, he's been able to cushion them from about 10 foot in the air. Because he's so tall, he's got an advantage over everybody else. The way that he connects with that ball a lot earlier than everybody else does.
True,
right. He is slotting in absolutely wonderfully, and Shaw seems comfortable alongside him as well. Sometimes you bring in a new centre half, and it can take a little bit of time for them to gel. And I mean, let's face it, our back four's been shuffled and moved around continuously throughout this season. But I thought together, him and Shaw over the last 2 games have looked very, very steady. Haven't really seen them in any sort of panic mode. And it was good to see Shaw coming out with the ball at times and to be able to set up the midfield. We're defending a little bit further forward. We're defending as a team. We're defending as a unit. And I suppose the only thing that was missing was that outlet ball. That ASM then takes the pressure off, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as the game goes on and as the show goes on and the comments start to fly in. But all in all, great performance.
When you're talking about centre backs, it's all about partnerships, and I've got to say, it looks like Dan Burn's got that sort of solid, no nonsense element to him that probably makes Shaw feel more comfortable to do some of the football stuff he feels he can do. He made a couple of raids upfield. Which we've not seen for a while, and that's probably because he hasn't felt comfortable to do that. I also loved yet another one with a little bit of shithousery in him. That little tackle when he knew the flag was going to go up anyway, but he went through with a tackle anyway. That is fantastic. Again, that shows what the squad's doing at the minute. They're getting together, they're making each other feel confident, and they're making each other feel comfortable to just basically show a little bit of nastiness, and that's what we need in the situation we're in.
Yeah, that's all we need. Okay, we'll dip into the chat. John Askew says, afternoon, everyone. Do you think the club, including Dan Ashworth, are planning now for life in the Premier League next season with the summer transfer window a priority? Do you think we're planning now, Mitch, for the summer?
If we're not, we're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
We might as well do a Burnley and advertise for a strategist. I still believe they'll be planning a plan A, which is assuming we stay up, we can do this. and they'll be planning a plan B. If disaster was to happen, we're going to need to do X, Y, Z. And I believe that'll all be being planned. Ashworth has this reputation about how thorough he is in terms of the dossiers he writes and the plans he writes. And I'm sure both strategies will be equally well executed come the time they're needed. But we'll put ourselves in a position where we can genuinely concentrate perhaps a little bit more on assuming that we are going to stay up. What are we going to do from here? And I think more time and effort can probably be put into that. And the longer we go on and putting out the performances that we are, because that's all we can do while everybody else is doing anything else. All we can do is concentrate on us and what we are doing. And it's in our own hands. And that's what we need to focus on. And staying up is in our own hands at the moment still. And so, what's happened in the last couple of weeks is other teams have been in worse form, certainly than us and Burnley, are now dragged into the mix. And so it's a much more of a battle royale, if you will. And so therefore, we can think, as long as we can keep this run of form going, we're in a really good position. Compared to where we were 6 weeks ago, it's a ridiculously good position. I think some of the, I'm being past messages. I think where we'll go from here, looking at strategy for the summer, I think probably the focus at the moment will be on what can we do if we stay up.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely that they're thinking Premier League, Steve, after the recent results. They won't get too confident, but a win tomorrow would certainly make it look a lot brighter again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're in a situation where, as Mitch says, it's in our own hands. You know, we're winning games, we're picking up points, we're on the front foot, we're not looking over our shoulder, Everton are looking over theirs, Leeds are certainly looking over theirs. And they're in a downward, two teams in a downward spiral. And the biggest one is the one that we're playing tomorrow, who are in a real sort of downward trajectory. And yes, there will be plans. There's no question about that. There's no reason why you can't have 2 or 3 plans on the go at any one particular time. That's called strategizing, without having to employ someone to strategize for you. It's just called common sense. You know, that's football. You know, you'll be constantly talking to agents. They'll be constantly having their own ideas. The board will constantly talking about what their aims and objectives are. Eddie Howe will have his own aims and objectives, and Eddie Howe's positivity will be that, as far as he's concerned, we're going to stay up because that's what he's fighting for. He's fighting continuously to stay up, and we'll get the points on the board. We will stay up, and then we'll see where it takes us. And that is going to make for a very, very good end of season, and hopefully a very, very interesting close season as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's definitely going to be an interesting summer, that's for certain, and I think it will be in the Premier League. So Monkey Suits taking it global, really, with what's going on. He says, what do you think will happen with Abramovich, Mitch? Do the powers that be have the balls to sanction him or not? I mean, Manchester United have announced that they've cancelled their sponsorship deal with Aeroflot, which was to the tune of £40 million. Abramovich, as we know, isn't allowed in the country at this moment in time and hasn't been for some time. But clearly, accusations and allegations have been levelled on more than one occasion that he was, siphoning money or using money, whatever you want to call it, for the man who is causing all this mayhem at the moment. I mean, again, it's allegations. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But what can they do with Abramovich? I mean, can they force him to sell? Can they kick him out? Kick him out of the Premier League? It's
a very good question. As Steve would tell you, this is a little rabbit hole he and I have dived down a little bit today when we've had a bit of spare time. Very, very complex and very interesting situation. I'm just disappointed Thomas Tuchel isn't facing questions in his press conferences, the crass type that Eddie Howe got after the takeover, but that's another matter. That's maybe me sounding a little bit bitter. The biggest challenge with Abramovich is the leverage he has over Chelsea Football Club and the leverage he has potentially over the Premier League. My understanding is that he has a 2 billion, Steve, loan?
Yeah.
lodged with Chelsea, and so if they were to start to get to the point where they were threatening Abramovich with, right, okay, you've got to get rid of the club, if he calls that loan in, that'll send Chelsea under. They don't have the money to pay that back in one whack. And the other option for the club might be to refinance that, but that would put them into Man City status. They wouldn't be able to support the squad that they've got. They wouldn't be able to support the ridiculous amount of loan players that they have out, that they make lots of money off every season on. And so Abramovich has the ability to either send Chelsea under or to cripple them forever, and then turn around to the Premier League and say, well, you did this, not me. You did this, not my fault. And so it's a real conundrum. I'm going to be a little bit devil's advocate. I would suggest if it was a club like Southampton that he had the leverage on, I don't know if they'd give him monkeys, really. But because it's one of the Sinister Six, as it were, because it's a well-known worldwide brand that props the Premier League up worldwide and gets viewing figures, I think that's a very different conversation for the Premier League. But this is the challenge to face with him, that if that is indeed the financial situation, that he has a loan lodged there that he can call in at any time and effectively cripple the club or put it under, that leaves the Premier League with a genuine dilemma about one of their beloved clubs.
I think what he'll probably do is he'll probably end up putting Chelsea into some sort of a blind trust. He'll relinquish any responsibility he has for it in terms of its running, and allow just to run as a blind trust. So he'll be at arm's length. He'll remain the owner. He'll have no control. Let's face it. It's very difficult to know what control he has anyway. Yes, he has his own people in running the company, rather like Mike Ashley did with Newcastle United over a long period of time. The difference being that Abramovich was putting money into the pocket of the club for them to allow them to carry on with the success, and it's been very, very successful in doing so. He's not allowed into the country, as you say. Somebody said the other day that he also had a passport from Portugal. And he's been given Portuguese status. So that means he's part Russian, he's part Israeli, and he's part Portuguese now. I suppose the Portuguese bit gives him free rein in the EU. The Israeli one gives him free rein in the Middle East, and obviously the Russian one keeps him at arm's length from everybody who wants to delve into what's going on business-wise, because it's all covered up and it's all hidden within the Kremlin and the relationship that he has or doesn't have with the dictator who's sitting in the Kremlin at the moment. I'm not going to mention his name. I don't think he's worthy of a name at the moment. But that's what I think will happen. I think I don't think there'll be any ramifications for Chelsea. I'll be very surprised if there was going to be ramifications in terms of what's happening at Chelsea. There will also be ramifications at Everton. With machinery and with Usmanov, the situation there is an absolute mess. If you delve into how Everton is set up and who owns it and where the money comes from, I mean that is deeply embedded in Russia.
Absolutely.
Has been for the individuals concerned embedded financially in Russia for all the way back to the time when Usmanov. Before Usmanov even took over it as a major shareholder at Arsenal. So
it goes way back then.
Yeah, there's a lot of digging that would need to be done before the government. And let's face it, the government's not interested at the moment in sanctioning against anyone other than those that they are literally forced to. The situation that we have is probably more interesting than what's happening at UEFA today. And the announcements that were made about the games, St. Petersburg will no longer hold the Champions League final and that type of thing. That's going on in the front. I think the government's got more to worry about and more to concern themselves than some of the individuals. And looking at just picking off names, there's probably hundreds of names that they could start before they get down as far as Abramovich.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing though that's worth mentioning, I think today, was that queer story from some Everton beat reporter who said that he reckoned the USM company that Usmanov owns was on the sanctions list and what implications might that have for Everton Football Club. And then within about 6 hours, he retracted it and said, "Oh no, it's a different company. It's not that company at all. And the company that it is might actually be part owned by PIF." And it's like, that looked like a total. I'm looking at that thinking, has somebody been on the phone to your son?
Yeah.
And said something along the lines of, sorry, just topping the ice up.
It was the equivalent of throwing the grass over the wall into your neighbour's garden. That's what
it's just
didn't
crazy. It was like, oh my god, no, I've got to retract this. And oh, there's Piff. Look, a squirrel. Can I distract you? Look at something shiny. Look over there, not here. It was bizarre, really, really bizarre, because that was all played out in about a time frame of about 2 to 6 hours or something. It was weird, really, really weird. So there's stuff going on connected to what's going on in the world at the moment within football clubs that could have genuine impact in the Premier League, which is just, and then the UEFA stuff we've been digging on today with the moving of the Champions League final is just where it's very predictable, really, I guess, because we've been around it so long enough.
Yeah, Mike Jensen says, "Hi lads, quick question with the HMRC moving staff from Benton to the city centre. Could we use the land at that Benton site for our new stadium or training complex? What's your thoughts on that, Mitch?"
I think Steve's probably more well versed on this than me of late.
Yeah, someone who sat there for 20 years on that site from 1978 to 1998. I know the site very, very well, and was there when they were talking about the redevelopment in 1988, which ended up happening in 2002. I saw this. This came about from somebody else's podcast, and a lad who was flying a kite, I think, looking for land that he thought would be suitable. Now, on paper and in the ether, there's no reason why that patch of land couldn't have a stadium put on it. It's big enough, no question about that. But it's right in the middle of a residential area. Yes, there might be the Metro at Foreign Ends, and there might be the Metro at Benton, and then there might be another Metro at South Gosforth, all within 10-minute walking distance. And it might be close to the Freeman Hospital, and it might be on bus routes, etc., etc., and halfway between the A1 and Gosforth and the A19. But quite frankly, it's literally housing. It's, and every bit of land that has appeared when the ministry closed down and shrunk into the space that it takes over now. Any spare land that there was went for housing. That was it. And the office blocks are there. It was a PFI build anyway, which meant that the HMRC was stuck there for 25 years. And we all know what PFI means. It doesn't mean PIF for someone who's dyslexic. It means that it was a public finance initiative, which basically was costing the country an absolute fortune to the people who built it in the first place and then rented it out to you at exorbitant money over that 25-year period. That money has been well paid back under the PFI initiative, and I wouldn't be surprised it was knocked down and then the whole office blocks were knocked down and it became a housing estate, housing development with some very, very expensive houses put on it. There's more likelihood, if the truth be known, that somewhere like Tyneview Park could more be the place where you would build. But I'm not interested in redevelopment of any football ground outside of Newcastle, on the periphery, whether it be Gosforth, whether it be Benton, whether it be someone on the A19. I think that where the club will focus will more than likely be a training ground, and we'll leave the redevelopment of St James's Park to the time when they're fully embedded and there's plans and where we've got the success that needs a 70,000 plus stadium. And then the conversation will happen then. Everywhere else, let's face it, the key for Newcastle is that the football ground is slap bang in the middle of the city, and that's what makes it unique.
Yeah, 100%, and that's what we need. Keep it in the city. I think the owners will get that anyway. I think there'll be a lot of thought goes into this. Roger Cook will give you your question before we dip into Tweet of the Week. He says, Mitch, Steve Hasty, do you think Miggy will be off in the summer? Well, I'll answer this. Yes, I think he will be off in the summer, Roger. I cannot see Miggy Almiron sitting around. And I don't think he'll be the only one either. Mitch?
I think I tend to agree with you. His agent's made certain noises in the last sort of couple of months, and I'm sure he'll make a few more noises again. He doesn't seem to be able to force his way into the side at the minute, which is a shame. He's got the right attitude, and he's obviously working hard. And when he does come on, he does work hard like he always does. But going forward, I think if there's good money to be made out of it, and the agent wants him away, and he wants to be away, I think everybody'd be happy if he would be, which is a shame, because I like his style, I like his wholeheartedness, I like his attitude. You need people like that around in your squad, but I think the key person in this is his agent, and I can't see him being happy unless he agitates for a little bit of a move.
Yeah. Steve?
I agree wholeheartedly. I can see Spain or Portugal being a destination for Miggy. I think his game would probably be more suited to it. Very disappointed with the way things have worked out for him, because when he came, big money, £20 million. We'd seen him play in America. We'd seen some great goals. We haven't seen that from him. We haven't seen the end product. We haven't seen that reward for the endeavour that he puts in. He doesn't seem to be able to hit a barn door at 5 paces. Maybe I shouldn't say that, because it was only less than 6 months ago I was saying exactly the same about Joe Linton. He's still not hitting the ball. He's still not hitting the back of the net, but his performances are 100%. But I think he'll be gone. I think there'll be bigger fish to fry for Newcastle United in the close season, as we've said earlier, providing we stay up, and the trajectory was forward anyway. So, that's where.
Yeah. Okay, dipping into our second segment, because I already had Elliot. It's Tweet of the Week. One of those weeks where we've been inundated with some great content off Twitter and other social media. We'll start with this one from Dad Jokes on Twitter. Can everyone who is here for the yodeling lessons please form an orderly queue? I did like that, lads. I did like that. I enjoy a bit of singing as well. I think people have noticed on a Friday. Dan Byrne emptying his pockets tonight. Phone, keys, Coutinho, and half of Tyrone Mings' shirt. That was from last week, and I missed it, but it was still worth a mention. You could just change that to Antonio, I guess, for last week. This one, the Sunderland badge, as you can see, one of the lines is departing. He goes, "Oh, where are you going?" He says, "One season, you said. Piss the league, you said. Full of shit you are. I'm off." Here's a bit more singing from Daryl. "Rhythm is a dancer. Brazilians are the answer. You can see them everywhere. Bruno's in the middle. Joe Linton's on the dribble. Take them on if you dare. Oh, it's Newcastle. Oh, you can feel it in the air."
That is we're going to have you singing that in a car soon, aren't we? We know.
Yeah, we are.
God, I know. Me singing's not my biggest talent, I'm afraid. Unless it's House of the Rising Sun on karaoke, and then I sound like Eric Burden. Jack. Sunderland fans were shy to say there was 37,000 there, outsung by 7 or 800 of us. Seen a few of those over the last couple of weeks, and they're not having a very good time, Sunderland. The Blue Whale's anus from Geordie Lad can open 3.5 feet, making it the second biggest arsehole in the world. Paul Merson is the first.
Brilliant.
That's what Twitter's for.
Brilliant.
Ian Hull said, "Another class show." This was last week. "Just caught up this afternoon since being like The Walking Dead yesterday, pro night shift." He says, "Please keep the day I met theme. It sounds class on my 1,000-watt home cinema system."
Jesus.
Ian, it's grown on people, that music. It has grown on people. People love it now. Arthur Bainbridge says, "Steve Wraith, I watched the Amigos. It's a canny show. The game which was abandoned was Ipswich at home due to icy conditions. It was 1-0 to Newcastle at the time. Didn't go down too well. The replay months later, the floodlights went out for a while. 10 to 20 minutes, the game ended 1-1. That's that discussion we were having the other week, lads."
Now, there you go. And that's why people were getting confused about the two games, because there was daft stuff happened in both, right? Makes sense.
So thank you, Arthur Bainbridge, for clearing that up. Dean, this was a good one. Who's the duck egg asking Alex Neil if there's any more added pressure on Sunderland because Newcastle are the richest club in the world? For fuck's sake. There's pressure on Sunderland because we have an inability to get out of League One. It's a complete meltdown on Weir side.
But it did seem a weird thing to ask him, though.
It did.
Yeah. Big shout out to Rachel's puppy Barney. Rachel, one of our regular viewers. This is my brother's puppy Barney, who has now become a Newcastle supporter. Apparently, he loved watching them win like the rest of us. I can see a Steve Hasty lookalike coming as well. He's got that look.
No, man.
He's got that look. He's got that look from the hairstyle there. We all love NUFC. Put this: Dan Burn against West Ham. 100% tackles won, 80% pass accuracy, 78 touches, 7 out of 8 duels won, 5 or 6 aerial, 7 clearances, 6 ball recoveries, 2 blocks, and 1 interception. Wow. We have signed the next big thing, I think. Big Dan Byrne. Michael Gilchrist put this one up. He goes, for sale, Sunderland tablecloths. Suitable for any occasion, but tend to slip down the table after a short time. Had a field day this week. We'll come on to this gentleman, ASM, in due course, but he does like to respond on Twitter. And Detective Perlo had said, look at the eyes after he says he's out, talking about Eddie Howe. I'm not convinced at all. Maxi chucked one in, and Ed isn't impressed. He said no injuries in his presser. So Alan Saint-Maximin put that up, Detective. Which I thought was great response. Again, Dazza picked on Kieran Trippier's Instagram. He says, Kieran Trippier loves taking the mickey out of Fraser. Fraser stood next to Dan Byrne, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. He continued that one.
which they keep doing. I had to put this up. Anybody who watched the boxing last week will get this. There was a big delay. There was a big delay in the boxing. And I mean, I just don't know where on earth Amir Khan was working, was where he was walking from. I mean, presumably a dressing room, but was it at a different stadium? If you get a chance to watch him walking into the ring, there was a huge delay because there was some argument going on behind the scenes, but that is well worth watching. That just made me giggle when he put that out. Mick Edmondson, Mad Mick, of course, good friend of the show, and from the back page, he went, I told Steve Cram that my dog does a somersault every time Sunderland lose. He asked, what does it do when Sunderland win? He says, I replied, I'm not sure. I only got him at Christmas. Adam Pearson, get on to him, give him a subscription. His work rate is unmatched, that's for sure. Worst atmosphere I think I've ever seen at a football game. I hope St James's Park never moves. That West Ham crowd was lifeless today. So that was a tweet from Adam. He was sitting in the corporate, it has to be said, last week because he hasn't got enough points to go in the away end. So he was in the corporate at West Ham. It was the reply from Mark Pearson who said, it's not the stadium that makes the atmosphere, it's the supporters. Newcastle could play on the moon and there'd still be 50,000 there having a Beano. He is right, he is right. And Dylan Swan there was a few people put this one up. In the space of 3 weeks, Chris Wood has apparently sparked Dele Alli out and meowed at Zuma for 90 minutes. What a legend. I think there's a myth being built up with Chris Wood, but I'm sure he'll take it. It's a good one. I just like this, I like me pictures. The Danny following on from the Big Dan Byrne, Desperate Dan comments. Big Dan Byrne eating cow pie, which was great. And this one was good, Steve. I'll let you have this one.
Yes, I love how essential workers have been called unskilled workers, yet this man can continue walking into managerial positions with zero skill because he was a decent player. And that's obviously Mr. Bruce.
Yeah, I think we know where they're coming from with that. Yep. This one was good from Ian. He goes, great to see our runners at the West Ham game cheering the lads on.
Yeah. Got a cat under his arm as well.
I think that's been doctored. Steve, I think you pinged me this one, which was great. It hasn't won, mind, but this is the second place one.
This was it's a picture of from Winnie the Pooh, and it's got Pooh sticks wasn't the same since they introduced VAR, and then you can see there they are leaning over, looking for the Pooh sticks coming under, and there's the VAR in the corner, a little lad checking it out, making sure. Brilliant.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, the winning tweet of the week is this one from Bella Preston, who went, this is after Middlesbrough had been beaten West Brom, 2-1. She went, Steve Bruce, that's karma for calling me mum a daft blonde cow on holiday. Hilarious.
Ah!
I thought that was brilliant. Okay, that is Tweet of the Week. Get them into us. If you see anything interesting, copy us in on Twitter at Steve Wraith, at Old Etonian, or at Geordie Dentist. And tomorrow I am on my way to Brentford. Things have picked up a little bit with me mum, I'm pleased to say. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. She is certainly on the mend. We thought we'd lost her last week, but she is fought the infection, doing very well, comfortable, resting. That's what she needs. Fingers crossed she picks up even more this week. But not going to count my chickens yet, but I am going to Brentford tomorrow. So I have pre-recorded a great show with Steve Howe. And this goes up at 11 o'clock tomorrow. And what we've done is we've mixed it up a little bit. So Steve has given his dream team, his Newcastle United all-time 11, his manager and his substitutes. Find out whether Steve picked himself in the first part of the programme. In the second part of the programme, we talk a little bit about what's gone on since we last spoke, the takeover, Eddie Howe, the new players that have come in, and where Steve thinks we'll finish this season. And he looks ahead, of course, to the game against Brentford. So cracking show, a lot packed into 1 hour. Join me and Steve Howe, 11 o'clock, for a pre-recorded show tomorrow. And as you know, the weekend means there's a true crime story on its way. And tomorrow evening, I interview a police officer. Deep Cover is the title of a new book coming out with Shea Doyle, who was an undercover operative, and he took down some of Britain's most dangerous gangsters. Very interesting interview for me, because I have never interviewed a police officer before. So that in itself was bizarre, because normally I'm used to speaking to criminals on these shows. To speak to somebody on the other side of the fence was a good experience for me. But yeah, it's an interesting book. Shea is an interesting person, and some of the names he dealt with were Paul Massey and Dale Cregan, to name but two. So join me tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, for your true crime interview. Very, very good. Look forward to that. And don't forget, we have got a summer do for the food bank coming up. Viva Morrissey is on June the 17th at the Irish Centre. And that is our summer party. Tickets are available on Voucher and on Groupon. They come up at around about £7.50. All proceeds go to the food bank. Get yourself along. I know Supermac and Gibbo are coming along to sing their version of Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now. This charming man, Steve Hasty, might be there. Yeah, it should be a great night. Something a bit different. We just thought we'd do something a little bit different. It's going to be a great summer party. So get yourself along, get yourself on a Groupon, get yourself on the Voucher, and please support the food bank. And please support me. I'm doing the fire walk for the Bradley Lowry Foundation. Looking forward to doing this Saturday, the 14th of May. I have done a fire walk before, and it's great. It's good fun. www.wrfirewalk.co.uk is the website. And to join Team Wraith, you enter the code NUFCM at checkout. He's aiming for 1,500 people, the guy who's organising it. It's only £35 to join. It's a good day out. I know John from QTech's going to be there. We've got Holly is going to be down there as well. We've got Toon Tipster. Joe is joining us. And I'm sure there'll be a few of the other guys join us as well. So get yourself down there for that. The Alan Shearer dinner is also been announced, and tickets are flying out for this. It is expensive, we know, but that is because it's a black tie dinner at the football club, and this is to recognise Alan's 260 goals. We've done 4 Alan Shearer events in the past, and we will be doing more in the future, which will be slightly cheaper prices, I would imagine. But this one is the 260 dinner, and we did the 206 dinner, and that sold out, and people were, really regretted missing it. So if you want to go, 260dinner.co.uk, 260dinner.co.uk, well worth popping along to that as well. And the food bank t-shirt, which is last but by no means least, is on my Twitter. You've got 50 minutes to bid on this. And I hate to tell you, but that man, George Hayes, has been at it again. £350 he has bid for this t-shirt.
Unbelievable, George.
He's already put the money in for the food bank. Toronto, George, thank you very much, mate. He says, and this t-shirt, bearing in mind, will be signed by Mirdad. We will also ask Jamie, I guess, if he could sign it. But Mirdad has confirmed he will sign it at the Brighton game. Anybody who bids over £350 can have the T-shirt. It's as simple as that. So you've got 50 minutes. Anybody can bid 351. It's at the top of my Twitter, at Steve Wraith. Get your bid in, and it will be great to hand over another 700 quid to the food bank off the back of a T-shirt. So get your stuff in. And so I don't forget, because I've got a tendency to forget this part of the show, those people who collect the clues to win a prize at the end of the 4 clues. Here you go. So the first one was Sabah. Okay. The second clue was this. During his professional career, the player in question played in every outfield position bar goalkeeper. So that's your second clue. Get your answers jotted down, and when we collect all 4 clues, we'll have a final question for a prize which John will announce in due course. And we do owe an apology to Helen Davidson, because John, who puts those clues together from QTech, was scouring the web and he found that lovely photograph. And I got a message from Helen, a polite one, a nice one. She wasn't having a go. A little magpie tells me I made an appearance in this week's photo quiz. I'm honoured. But also, yes, you can use my pic. So, Helen, we apologise dearly, but thank you so much for allowing us to use your photo. And it's getting a good show. So let us applaud the talents of Helen Davison. Yeah. Her photograph is fantastic, and thank you for allowing us to use it. I hope that suffices, Helen. And thanks for watching as well. Nice to know that you're tuning in. But get those clues written down, and we will obviously have another clue next week. All right, ASM. Mitch, this is interesting because, you know, this has happened before. He seems to have his own recovery technique, and it doesn't involve a trip down to see the guys at Benton. It involves getting on the Eurostar or getting on a plane and going to France and chilling out for a bit and sticking things on his social media and occasionally doing a video of him pedaling away on a bike. Now, Eddie Howe was asked a question about this today, and, you know, as all good coaches, stroke managers do, you know, he had an answer. He doesn't get too over the top, doesn't get carried away. He said he's going to make a late call on ASM, but he said that he'd been away for intensive treatment. And he said when he suffered the injury, we knew it wasn't going to be long term, but we're keeping our fingers crossed on him. And he just said that he got a bang on his calf against Villa. In terms of rehab, he's been away to get specialised intensive treatment abroad. We felt that was the quickest way to get him fit. He's in a very good place and he's very eager to return. Is this another example of Eddie Howe's good man management, do you think, Mitch? You're muted, mate.
I think he's being very careful with what he's saying for some reason. And I've got some idea on what that reason might be. I don't and haven't wanted to talk about it because at the minute we're doing really well. We want to keep the vibe positive. We want to keep everything upbeat. I think it's up. Some of the journalists might have an idea what's going on, and it's up to them whether they want to use that or not. But either way, I think there's more to this than meets the eye personally. I can tell you from some of the pictures I've seen, the picture he had of himself inside the barometric chamber. I can tell you the one thing that wasn't happening in that was any kind of intensive treatment, because they don't let you into a barometric chamber when you're using it wearing a Rainbow GMT Master 2 and gold on your wrist, for example. So he's very good at using social media to keep the fans on side. And quite right too. You know what? There's some players can't do that. They don't have the nous to do that, and more players probably should do. I think as long as Howe is happy with how everything is, and Howe seems to be fully in control of how everything is, and the squad respect that and respect each other, then crack on, do what you like. I know he does have a preference to go to the treatment rooms at Monaco. I think that goes back to a long-standing connection that he has with the club as a junior. And that's fine. You know what? We'll let Callum Wilson go back down to Bournemouth when he had his hamstring. And so if players are getting the treatment they need in the way they want at the right time, but I've got more questions than answers on some of these things, and I don't like it. It doesn't sit well with us. I don't like that I'm feeling that way in the middle of what should be only good news. And so I just want to keep it that way and say, look, if they're making a late call on him, then fair enough. I have a inkling he didn't travel with the squad today, but I don't know whether he's actually back in Newcastle or not at the minute. Technically, he could go straight to London from France. So, whether as long as he's filled the right bloody paperwork in, which he's not done before, but that's another matter. So, you know, and Howe seems comfortable and totally in control with it. And we've got to run with the manager, and what he says is what he says.
Steve, what's your take on the whole situation with our good friend ESM?
I just find it rather strange that you get a kick on the calf and then you end up having to go to France for a week. I just find that really, really odd. I think is it saying something about the medical facilities that we have at the club? I don't know. But to me, it just seems ridiculous in terms of what you're trying to do on the training pitch during the week and what the message that you're trying to get over to the players and the style of play that you're wanting to put forward and the tactics that you're going to use for Brentford. Are you going to do that with only 10 and then just leave the 11th man to come in at the last hour and just say, oh, by the way, read this bit of paper. That's what you got to do. You know, it's just all really, really odd. But you've got a maverick in ASM. You've got a player who does his own thing on the pitch and possibly does his own thing off the pitch as well. And I suppose it's the man management skills of Eddie Howe on how he manages to get through that and to move on from it. And if there are problems between Eddie Howe and ASM, I'm sure they'll come to the fore at the appropriate time. And if there are no problems, then great. That's the positive nature of what's going on, I suppose. So let's see. But I agree with Mitch in terms of the photographs. I mean, again, you're in that barometric chamber with your mobile phone as well. You know, it was just stage managed. The photographs, is that the only kit he's got, the away kit and the home kit? I've never seen anyone at Newcastle United train in the full kit before. That's rather odd as well. Was that just the bag he picked up when he hopped on the plane? You know, God knows. I just find it all really, really strange. But he's a strange character himself. You know, and very much a maverick. For
somebody who can and does contribute, you know, so much. The statistics show that he does. You know, that the end product's improved and things like that. The man management thing, it's twofold. It's how do you manage an individual like that? You know, he's clearly proper maverick, and they do need leeway. They do need that you know, bit of give and take. But how does he then manage the rest of the squad looking at that? Because there's bound to be some people who get peed off within the squad looking at that and saying, well, how's he allowed to do X, Y, Z? You know, for example, when the entire squad came back to Newcastle after the Saudi trip, he had a detour here in Dubai. And as far as I know, he was the only one of the squad who was allowed to do a detour about that. Yeah. And so, because he spent the night with two of my mates here in Dubai. And so, you know, it's an odd one. And it's a difficult one, but again, I think it shows what Howe's man management skills are. That the squad have never dipped on that, and the performance against West Ham showed that everybody was fully and wholly committed. And maybe the squad are quite happy to give ASM a little bit of leeway on things like that too. You know, but that's how Howe is managing the situation, and we've got to roll with that as the manager, because we cannot really. A, do anything else, but B, how can you criticise it, because it seems to be working. The results are there to see.
That's what I was going to add, Mitch. The fact that it's a lot easier for Eddie Howe to manage when we're winning games and when we're picking up points. If this was Steve Bruce, and if we'd gone through 22 games where we haven't been picking up points, then I think it would have been a totally different situation. And I think that's when the press would have been all over and trying to dig up, trying to find out what's going on. From the squad point of view, again, let's just look at that for a moment. You've got, you know, it's announced in the paper today that Trippier wants to be part of the squad even when he's unfit,
which is fantastic.
Which is brilliant. That's fantastic to hear. But also, I don't know whether you noticed during the photographs that were out of them training this week, that there was 2 players in Lewis and Clark who aren't even under 25, and they still want to be part of the action. They still want to be putting the effort in and supporting the 25 in training by being part of whatever's going on. So again, it shows that there's a good camaraderie among the players. They are blending and they are working together and they're supporting each other. And it's shown in the points. We're picking up points. We've gone 5 games unbeaten. Haven't been beaten since the turn of the year. Apart from that absolutely shocking performance that we put in against Cambridge in the cup. But let's just concentrate on where we are, and I'm sure we'll cover out what we think the team will be tomorrow as we get to the end of the show.
Yeah, okay. Question from JJ. He says, big question. Do you think we'll be allowed a double capacity in selected ends of the ground with safe standing? I mean, Steve, I'll come to you first, because we did a thing with safe standing a few years ago at the old 9 Bar in Stow Street. But is it something you think the club will contemplate now under a new owner?
I think they might contemplate safe standing. I don't see why not, if there's the appetite for it. We've talked about this before. The problem with safe standing is where they're going to put it and who is going to be disrupted. And at the moment, the one thing that the owners don't want to seem to do is to upset anybody. Let's not upset the apple cart. So, we know what happened with the Save Our Seats campaign, for example, where Fletcher, with the best will in the world, wanted to bring in corporate areas and wanted to redevelop areas of the ground, and that meant that people lost their season tickets, and most of them had bonds on them as well, and he did them on a technicality of saying that they could move them even though they thought that seat was guaranteed for the length of their bond. I don't think they're going to fall into this trap yet. I think this is where dialogue with fans and dialogue with all season ticket holders would have to take place, because there would be an awful lot of people potentially have to be uprooted and moved. There'll be people who want to be in the safe standing area who aren't in the allocated area at the moment. You've got people who don't want to be in safe standing, but they might have had their season tickets for 15 or 20 or 30 or more years in that particular location. In terms of raising the capacity, there were 2 schemes. And the scheme that we looked at, Steve, which John Dark brought over from Germany, the model that he pushed with the FSA, that did allow for example, 1 seat that would be a collapsible and retractable seat that could be pinned away for league games, and then could be dropped so that you had a seat for the European. Because remember, in European football, Champions League, UEFA, and now this stupid conference that goes on, you've got to be seated. That scheme did allow for up to a 3-to-1 in terms of capacity. Yeah. Now, I understand that the schemes that are being tested at Manchester United, I think I'm not sure there's a safe stand area at Chelsea. I know Wolverhampton Wanderers, they were pushing for it, and they had allocated, and it's been going as a test up at Celtic for about 2 seasons now. They are 1-on-1, 1-to-1, so it's literally there's 1 person for where the seat would be. As I say, the German model that did allow for a 3-to-1, so it would have been a great way to increase capacity. But I remember talking to some friends of ours, Mitch, if you remember, at the time that John Darks came, a lad that you know who's a structural engineer, who felt as though, and everybody was saying, wouldn't it be great if the entire Gallagher was 3-to-1 capacity? And he said structurally, the way that the ground was built, it just couldn't happen. You could not triple the attendance in the Gallagher end, because, as a structural engineer, he said the forces just wouldn't allow it, which was really, really interesting. And I think it was that point that some photographs came out of basically they just built over the scrap of the terraces, and all the rubble was still left underneath and all sorts. When the Gallagher end was put up very, very quickly by Cameron Hall. So it would be great to think that would be the answer to the problem of getting more and more people in to watch Newcastle United, because the demand's there. But I don't think it's going to be the panacea that we certainly the question is hoping for.
Yeah. Okay. Evening, lads. What's your thoughts on Stu's comment about ASM on Wednesday? I tend to agree with him, says Harry. Look, Mitch has alluded to it as well. But from our perspective, we're not here to stir the pot. We do hear things. We do pick things up. The club's a positive place at the minute. Let Eddie Howe deal with it. Let Eddie Howe deal with it, and let Eddie Howe get things right. He's done everything right so far. It's not our job to tittle tattle and tell tales. And from our perspective, let's just hope ASM comes back from Monaco in the right frame of mind and helps us get 3 points at the weekend. Okay, it's everybody's favourite music now. The day I met, and thanks to Geordie Girl who sent us this photograph of her and David McCreary toasting a pint together. Thank you for that. This one from Alan. He says, one for the day I met Steve Wraith, not me, but my little one and Fabian Shaw, which is a good photo as well. Okay. This one also, he says, another day I met Steve. He says, my family and the amazing Steve Hasty, who is a Newcastle and Food Bank legend who deserves all the credit in the world for what he does for the area.
That's very nice, very nice. But there's more than me. There's plenty of volunteers on match day that do just as much, if not more. But that was very nice to say that. Thank you. Yeah,
great stuff. This one's from Dunnell, and I'm trying to work out who it is because you didn't put in your message, Dunnell, who it was. Now, is that a player no longer at this parish?
That's Yedlin.
Yedlin, I thought it was. Yeah, it is. It's Yedlin. So thanks for that, Dunnell. We just didn't have a name, and I was trying to identify who it was. This one's from Anthony Lewins, Peter Jackson, and me in Vietnam.
Wow.
Great stories, he says, about Gaza. Peter Jackson, I've got him coming along to the Brighton game next month. So he's coming back to Newcastle. Loves the opportunity to come up. So he will be speaking in one of the lounges at St. James's Park. Anthony also sent us this one. The day I met Pedro, top man, best ever for me, he says, which was another great photo. This one, this is me meeting Tim Krull and David Santon in Thomas Cook on Northumberland Street in 2011. Brilliant that. Brilliant that one, mate. Thank you for sending that one in. And
I'd love to know the story behind that.
I know.
Did he just follow them in when they were booking a holiday, or was it vice versa?
Yeah, maybe he'll send us the story. Yeah, get the story into us. And this one is from Jimmy, of course, popped onto the 5-minute rant the other week. And this is great. This is a picture of him in Alan Shearer in 2003, the day he met Alan Shearer. So thanks for all of those. Keep them coming in. Send them to me at Steve Wraith on Twitter, and we will get them on air. And do you want a bit of the music again, Steve? You seem to be cringing when it came on. Like,
no. It's just that you said that it was the one that everybody liked. And it was just, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure that that's factually correct.
Here we go. Okay, in about 5 minutes' time, I'm going to bring Michael Charters on. He just wants to have a chat. As you know, we do give people a chance to come on and have a chat about different things, and he's got something he would like to speak about on the show. So about 5 minutes' time, we'll bring Mick on. Okay, just dive into the comments again. Barry says, I honestly hope the new owners will be more ruthless in terms of getting rid of poor, always injured players. Can we expect Wilson, ASM, Almiron, Dummett, Lascelles, Kraft to be shown the door? Barry, we've got to stay up first, mate. And if we don't stay up, we're going to need these players. That's what you've got to remember, Barry. Rome wasn't built in a day. We're not going to suddenly go out and bring in Mbappe and De Bruyne in. Give them time, but you need to do this properly. And it's a slow process. This isn't going to happen overnight. But one or two of those players will go. Stu says, you reap what you sow, and Eddie Howe deserves every success that may come his way, considering the predicament he inherited. The platform is now on solid foundations, which is true. Arsenal also heavily involved with the Russians, says Jody Toomperlife. Sanctions against Chelsea. Should we let Fulham invade from the west? Let the Cottagers lose on their rear, says Jeff Carter. Always one with a different take. Hope Jose is never our manager. Yes, he has connections to Sir Bobby. Yes, it will be a nice narrative, but the reality is his philosophy, and it's not good for the long-term future of his club, says Gawley. The interaction between our owners and the fans often brings a tear to the eye. Did you see this morning was just amazing? Yeah. Yes, Alan, he was. And they get it. They get it. They do. They get it. They're very, very good at what they do. Just trust them. That's all I would say. I'd love to see Chelsea go under, says Tom Lynch. Okay, we'll deal with this before we bring Mick Charters in. Colour Coach says, what will Dan Ashworth change for the future of the club, Mitch?
Well, we've used the word before on a number of occasions, the whole DNA, the whole way the club behaves, top to bottom, the way the teams play, the way that the philosophy of the football. I think he's got the opportunity to put something way beyond what he did at Brighton, and he's done a fantastic job at Brighton. You've got to look at what they're doing top to bottom as a football club from where they came. But he's now got financial backing of the likes of which potentially he's never had. And you look at what he did at the FA as well, and the praise he's had for the work he did with the England setup. So, yeah, what will he change? Probably just about everything, root and branch, mate. And he's got a genuine, the other part of this, to use a aphorism, project that he has is a blank page. He can do probably pretty much whatever he wants, because it's clear that Howe trusts him, and you need those dynamics within the setup. This is what me and Steve sat down with when we sat down with Midhat. God bless him. And he had his list of people he wanted to get involved in Newcastle United. Had been Zayed Group taken over. And it was just basically a list of people he knew in football, and you're like, well, how does this one work with this one, and what they're going to do and how they're going to interact? And he has this ability to have, to look at the entire setup, sort of top to bottom, and get everybody working together. And he already has that kind of relationship working wise with Howe. So that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And there's the question, Mitch, for you from Tom Dixon. What are you drinking?
Vodka and iron brew.
There you go. Made from girders.
I'll tell you what else he'll bring, Steve. He'll bring some professionalism upstairs that has been lacking for 14 years. That's what he'll bring. Footballing, a footballing brain, football intelligence, and a professionalism that we've never had, that can galvanise that part of the club that has been sadly lacking. That's what he'll bring.
There you go. There's your answer. Okay, we're going to bring in Mick as a guest. And Mick, welcome to the show, mate. I hope you're doing well. Mick has contacted me on Twitter. He suffers from Parkinson's disease, but he says he's not going to let it beat him. That's for sure. And Mick, if we can just turn the show down in the background, because we'll get a bit of feedback. He suffers from Parkinson's disease, but he says he's not going to let it beat him. That's for sure. And Mick, if we can just turn the show down in the background, because we'll get a bit of feedback.
I can hardly hear you, Steve.
Right, we can hear you, Mick. We can hear you, mate. You should be able to hear us now.
No.
Okay, Mick, if you can hear us at all, if you just want to tell us about the table tennis match that you're trying to organise.
I can't hear you.
Do you want to speak to your lass and see whether she can sort the sound out? No good. See whether she can sort the sound out.
I can't. I've got you on the telly, but I can't get you on here.
You need some headphones.
I can't. I've got you on the telly, but I can't get you on here.
You need some headphones.
I've got some headphones, but unfortunately they don't work.
Ah, right, okay, mate. Just want to talk about the table tennis match and I'll say nothing.
I've got some headphones, but unfortunately they don't work.
Ah, right, okay, mate. Just want to talk about the table tennis match and I'll say nothing.
Yes. I wrote anyhow. twice on 2 occasions and asked him if he'd like to play as a table tennis with a couple of the players and a couple of my mates for charity, Parkinson's UK, but I got no reply. If anybody can give him a nudge and ask him if he'd like to get back with us, and I'll take him on any time.
Okay, Mick, I've got your contact details. The best person to speak to would be Lee Marshall. So leave it with us. I'll try and nudge Lee Marshall on, and we'll see where we'll go from there, mate. Okay? We're going to leave you now because obviously the feedback's awful. It'll not be good for people who are listening on the channel. But leave it with us, Mick, and we'll get back in touch with you. Okay? Thanks, mate. Okay, sorry about that, folks. I did want him to get the message across because he's got a good cause that he's trying to ring. He's trying to make money, obviously to help this well-known charity, the park, to back the Parkinson's thing up that he's suffering from. He needs really to get in touch with somebody like Lee Marshall, doesn't he, Steve?
Yes, and perhaps through NUDSA as well. Newcastle United Disabled Supporters Association. They have a very, very good relationship with the club through the foundation as well. So NUDSA might be a good starting point for him. They have a little slot on the club website, and if he has a look at the club website and looks for there's an area that says fans, and I'm sure there's a link on there. If it's not, then we can certainly give him the link for contact someone in NUDSA. Or someone like Steve Baharrell at the foundation who might be able to give him a little bit of help, a little bit of support, a little bit of guidance on what he can do. Because again, the foundation does an awful lot of work with the disability charities, and I'm sure that it's something, if they can do something with, they'll certainly help them or point them in the right direction.
Okay, I've pushed Mick onto you. I've just sent him a little message on Twitter there. I've told him what your Twitter handle is and what Steve Wilkinson's is. I've told him to give you a shout, so expect a message from him, Steve, and I'll leave that one with you. Tom says, the lad who does Tyneside Live seems to think Leazes Park was completely a non-starter. I disagree, especially if St James's Park can be turned into parkland to compensate. Been down this road before, Mitch, haven't we? This whole ground thing. And again, we don't need a new ground at the minute. What we need is a good team and great training facilities. Concentrate on that first.
That's the priority right now. But like I've said before, I do think if they've got a strategy and a long-term plan, there will be a time where we've got to talk about capacities and things like that. So they've got to be having discussions in the background about it, but it's background discussion at the minute. It's not right at the forefront of everything. What I would say though, I don't think anything's a non-starter in the post-COVID world when the club can carry such financial weight that I suspect any discussion about planning with Newcastle City Council is a very different discussion when there's financial gain to be made, but also on the back of something like that, potential further investment from PIF into the city and the region. That would go hand in hand with that, and any council would be absolutely bonkers to turn that down post-Brexit. Remember, we got so much help with European money to do, well, the magnificent vista of the quayside right now. That was built as much with money from Brussels as it was from anywhere else. We don't have that anymore. And so the council for me would be totally loony to turn some sort of investment opportunity down, which might not come from anywhere else. They'd be cutting their nose off to spite their face, and they know that. And I think many planning decisions these days are not as black and white as you might think they are.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, we're a long way off from this new ground scenario, but it will always be a topic of conversation. And I can never see the NIMBYs will be back out in force if we suggest building on Leazes Park.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll find even more newts. I think it was newts the last time that they did Sir John Hall on. Tried everything else. He had them over a barrel, and then all of a sudden they found some rare newt that couldn't be moved, and that was it. There was a wildlife embargo on being able to do anything with this particular type of newt. But yeah, I mean, money talks. Mitch is going on about the planning. It's leverage. What they've got is there's leverage there that will allow them to maybe look at the whole area and see what can be done. Who knows? I mean, there's loads of schemes going around. I think people are like the lad on was it Life Goals? I watched his little video, went through it, and yeah, we've covered the park, we've covered Nunsmoor, we've covered, there's been lots of places. The redevelopment of the arena area was another one. Spillers, that's now going to have a big wheel on it, or it was going to. I don't know what's happening there. There was the training ground. When we're talking about that, there was Woolsington, where Sir John Hall wanted to put it, which was right next to the airport, which is where the gates were. Surprisingly, Steve, when we went up,
yes,
under all those bales of hay. Then there was the moving it down a little bit towards the old university place at Kenton Bank Foot, and then you like we say, there's lots of things that could happen. Gosforth Park was another one that was mentioned, but Gosforth Park's in a green belt and it's in an area of parkland, and I think that would be very difficult to redevelop on. I know that there's a golf course and stuff like that, and I know people go on about the Rubens owning the race course and surrounding land, but again, it's out of town. It's out of town, and it's not where we want to be. Certainly not in the next few years. As I said right at the very beginning, that's what makes St James's Park unique. Its location in the city centre, 101 pubs and more that are around the ground within a mile, that nobody else can match by at least three, I think we're 3/4 of the way beyond. I think than the nearest football ground that's got as many pubs as with 25. It's unique, it's special, and it's those aspects of football, and those aspects of the club that make it so special. And we then get the success on, and spend a little bit of time with proper planning and proper ideas and proper design features, and see what can be done on that. We're not talking about quart into a pint pot. Far from it. We're talking about clever development. We're talking about clever stuff. And I know people will say, I think the design that was shown on Life Goals, is whatever the lad's show is called, had a training ground, and it had a 30,000 seater stadium next to for women's football. I'm sorry, the girls are getting like 65, 70 people. It's women's football is growing, and the interest's going to be there, but it's not at the point of a 30,000 seater stadium yet. You're only getting 200 and 300 turning up for under 23 games. So again, you're not going to get the demand. It's not there. And it's, yes, all of this is based on what people are seeing as designs in the Middle East currently, where they're being built in the desert. Where there's land aplenty for redevelopment, or for development as such. If you manage to get Leazes Park, then I can see the current St James's Park then being demolished and becoming parkland, and that's the only buyout. That's the only exchange you would get, where you would suddenly give the ability to have a park like St James's, like that area in the city centre, and the ground moved 400 yards further up. But it's a Victorian park, and you're right, Steve, the NIMBYs that came out the last time, maybe that's not the right word for us to use, the environmentalists, the people who had the history in the heart of the city, not necessarily through football eyes, but through different eyes, and we had to accept that. They won the battle, and I don't think it's a battle that my dad, Amanda, Jamie and PIF would want to go into in the next 4 or 5 years. I think they're concentrating solely on what we can do on the football pitch itself.
Yeah, and anybody who doesn't know what NIMBYs means, it's not detrimental. It's just not in my backyard. That's all it means. And a lot of people live around there, and they won't want the natural habitat change. They won't want people impeding on their parking areas and their life. You know what I mean? It's been their life, and they have the ground within spitting distance of them, but they don't want it on top of them. And that's the bottom line. And look, if it was me living there, maybe I would be the same. But that's what it means, not in my backyard. And I think it's a fair way of describing those people. They don't want it there. So, but we're not going down that route. We've been down that route once. I don't think it'll happen. Safe standing's causing a bit of a debate. Ryan Sweeney says, I don't agree with safe standing. What if we win a trophy? Imagine the chaos with people standing and running towards the fence. Too much risk, in my opinion. It gives us the opportunity to show this. And I dug this out. I mean, I was at this game. Football Away Days is one of my favourite Twitter accounts, and they often put up photographs of different, accumulations of fans, etc. And this was in 1987, and Newcastle were the visitors. And just look at the chaos there. That's the kind of chaos I guess you're talking about, Ryan. That fans crammed in, pushed up against fences. That was in every way, shape, and form just as bad as Hillsborough. I am telling you, I was there, and it was ridiculous. And there was no cause for concern from the police or the club at the time. People were getting crushed, and it's a wonder nobody died that day. But I can see why safe standing is a concern, Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to Andy Gibson out here in Dubai, who was in there. My good mate Jamie Fender, he has stories from being there as well at the same game. Both of them saying they were effectively lifted off their feet, carried wherever, and didn't have any control over where they were going. And Jamie was saying he was carried so far, he wasn't just carried across, he was lifted up. And what helped him was he was able to step onto a concrete path that was level with the pitch. He'd been lifted up that much. It's crazy. The key word in safe standing is safe. It's planned to not be like that. Those grounds and the entrances and into the paddocks, and particularly in the time when the fences were there, they weren't designed with flow of people in mind at all. And part of the safe standing is also looking at how you get access to that area, how you come in, how you go out, and how the flow of people works, even if it's at a maximum capacity. And that's why the word safe is there in safe standing. I think if you look at how rail seating has been used across Europe, I think it's fair to say it is safe, and it does enhance the atmospheres and grounds, and it's something that needs to be explored further. But maybe I'm just showing my age. To be honest with you, I don't know if I want to stand at grounds again. I'm quite happy going to my seat.
I think what people have got to realise as well, when you talk about the safe standing rail seating, as you called it, Mitch, which is the proper term for it, there's actually a rail in front of you. There's actually a barrier that stops that running around. You're literally in your little quadrant. You're in your aisle, and the advantage you've got with it is that if you're currently standing in front of a seat, you can go over the top and over the top and over the top and tumble down on top of each other, as we see regularly. With people standing in an area that's designed for seating. With this system, there's a barrier in front of you. So that's to stop someone coming over the top of you, and it's to stop you going over the top of somebody else. And you're talking about that game, that 87 game, 76, the Gallagher End semi-final against Tottenham again. I was in the Gallagher End that night, and I remember at half-time, the movement of the crowd, and there was a 55,000 seat, I think 55,000 people in, I think. It was absolutely jam-packed, and at half-time, the movement of the crowd, my feet were off the ground, and I stepped straight onto the cinder track at the front. There was a good 4-foot drop. And people remember, there's 3 to 4 foot that you are underneath when you were standing at the front, and that's how far off the ground I was, and I literally stepped as the crowd moved and was able to swing and step straight onto the cinder track. So I was 3.5 foot off the ground. And you weren't aware of it at the time. It wasn't until the push and the crush came to the front, and then you were literally, instead of coming down like that, you were coming across like that, level, and stepped straight onto the cinder track at half time. So I know exactly what Jamie's talking about when he had to experience that at that game. What was it, 76, 86? 20 odd years later. 10 years, something like that. I don't know, 15. Matt didn't get. You see, I wouldn't have gone to university now because I haven't got my grade 2 CSE.
Mark Pearson says standing was dangerous when you could pay cash at the gates. With tickets capacities controlled, which is it's a point. But you just need to look at what happened to us at Leeds a few weeks ago. It just takes one malfunction somewhere along the line. One of those safe options to malfunction, and then suddenly there's a problem. And it was turnstiles going out of operation, aging turnstiles, which then meant that fans were getting backed up, and crushes were happening. One guy dropped on the floor apparently and nearly got trampled on. Again, football fans are never, ever, ever looked after. We never come first. And
inadequate security, inadequate stewarding, and inadequate facilities. And you put all of them together, and you get the shambles that happens at grounds like the situation at Elland Road. That's exactly what happened at Hillsborough. Everybody failed. The police failed. Stewarding failed. The club failed. The security officer failed. The people who had responsibility failed. And I think that's what happened at Leeds as well.
Yeah, Northumberland Geordie, thanks for your inboxes on Messenger. He's sending us a few potentials for 3 Amigos posters. We've used one of them before, definitely, but I'll definitely use another one of those. Yeah, Lee Weldon's a good lad, Andrew. Tell him, if you see him, please tell him I'm asking after him. He's into his cricket these days, but he's a top lad, Lee Weldon. And it was a big help when I did the NME book, that is right. John says, I'm with Mitch. I'm ready for safe lying down, not standing. Absolutely brilliant. Geordie Tune for Life. I was an 11-year-old in East Paddock. Difficult, says LPP. Stu, good evening. He says, I hope everyone's good and we get another 3 points tomorrow. So do we. We'll start looking ahead to the match very, very shortly. Michael Jameson says, we'll develop the training complex first, including a main pitch where the stands can be dismantled, a.k.a. Qatar. And we'll then develop St James's Park and move back to St James's Park and remove the extra seating. Simple, Michael. Simple. All simple. You never know.
Well done.
I prefer to sit down and watch football. I know the Northern League is different because there's hardly any seats, says Tom Dixon. So there we go. All right. We're going to go on to another one of our regular sections. And No Tune Tipster tonight. He's being kept at work. So he sent us an email. So I've got to read it out. Another week off. Honestly. What's he like?
Can't get the stuff.
Can't get the stuff. So we're going to go for Tune Lookalike, you know. Inundated, as usual, with these. This one, Lookalike Vito, the goal scorer against Leicester, and Fabian Schär.
I thought that was Fabian Schär on the top.
It's that good a lookalike, isn't it? It is. That was pretty good. That was from last week. I don't know what that one's doing in there, but yeah, we'll look at it again. Is this Geordie Dentist doing the Shearer celebration in classic Ronnie Barker glasses? But we had that one last week. I'm sure we've had this one before as well from Mark Fleming. I'm sure you've sent this before, Mark. Shamima Begin and the guy Bernie Winters, of course. But yeah, I can see. Yeah, it is fairly accurate. Sam Chipperfield trying to fall out with Steve Hasty at every opportunity and getting more insulting by the week. Steve, over to you.
Sam. What can I say?
Is this Steve Hasty straining on the bog?
Sam, I never had a fringe since I was 12.
You there? And then Sean put this one in. Dear me, it comes in waves, Steve. And I'm not talking about your hair. I'm not talking about your hair. Thomas says Sacha Baron Cohen as Bruno and Fernando Torres. He hasn't put the photos up, but he's got the Fernando Torres bit right there, I would say, which is pretty good. This one was from Tom Dixon, Mark Gillespie and Paul Dummett, an Obertan and an egg.
I'll tell you what, the top two, I mean, they're apparently inseparable, aren't they? Good mates, you know, were when they were youngsters, you know, in the juniors and stuff like that. But I can see the resemblance. There's definitely a resemblance there.
This one, Ant McPartlin as Lady Antoinette. And the girl from, was it not Girls Aloud? Little Mix, that's right.
That's right.
Got a bit of a look. I didn't use the one of you, and somebody said it looked like you, Steve. I didn't. Keep that for next week. This one, been watching No Return on ITV, and lo and behold, Steve Hasty comes up as the judge. Can you see?
Oh, classic.
People actually going to the mean, like, are sitting watching TV shows like that and thinking, there's Steve Hasty. 100% Marks. Here's a tune lookalike. Yeah, I think this could be a winner. Fabian Scher, English actor. Theo James from the movie How It Ends.
Hi.
Pretty good. It didn't win, though.
Fabian a bit more beard, yep.
Stephen Kennedy. Whenever I see Mark Ivanier on telly or in movies, I always think of Steve. Just watched him in a couple of episodes of Barry playing the torturer, and I swear it was him.
But I'm lost. Yeah, is that
Is
not
it me?
Is that not too?
It must be Steve, man.
Weird.
Yes.
Yeah, weird.
I thought the eyes were going there.
No. The Mags looks like Joe Willock has been moonlighting on Bel Air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That is definitely.
Got the swagger as well. Definitely got the swagger. David Cook, Steve lookalike for next week, chaps, from South Africa, Survivor Series 8, and John Beresford. John will be happy with that, like.
He will be.
I would like I.
Right, he would. You'd
100%.
never get the end of it if you sent that to Spez, would you?
Sean Campbell, I love this one. He went, Jimmy Nail must be appearing live at the O2 this weekend. The roof's as shredded as his underpants.
Jesus.
Love it.
Yeah, that was good. This one, Michael Barlow says, two lookalike, Leonard Rossiter and Chris Wood.
From a distance, yeah, I see that poor Chris.
Des sent, is this one Dominic Cummings and Alex Neil?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good one.
And this one,
Socrates. Yeah,
Joe Linton.
and Joe Linton.
He's playing like bloody Socrates at the minute. You can keep it up.
Yes, as long as he's not smoking like him.
True.
Hungary, can anyone see the resemblance? Maybe a father and son look-alike, says.
Yeah, it's just the beard that puts you off, isn't it? And the fact that he's got hair as well. Apart from that, and the earring, and the what, and the kid.
I think that was a resounding no from Mr. Hasty.
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it?
This one was better. Ken Barlow and Paul O'Grady.
Paul O'Grady, yeah. Aye, yeah, just a little bit.
A little bit. Could be cousins.
Yeah.
When Han then sent this one, looks like Steve Hasty is frustrated. Steve Wraith's not going to be messed with.
Yeah.
And Paul at the Toon Review looks as smart but a bit clueless. He's even involved Paul from Toon Review. Great podcast. Give him a subscription. So thanks for that, Hungary. You mustn't have been able to find one in Mitch. This one was from Lee. Toon lookalike. A sophisticated Geordie robot sent back through time to change the future for the Geordie faithful. And it's Mitch. Terminator.
I want your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
And the winner this week is this one from Lee. Wurzel Gummidge.
And Pellegrini.
Pellegrini. Brilliant stuff. So keep them coming in. You know where to send them to. Get them over. Some really good lookalikes this week. Thanks very much. So, on to the game tomorrow. Newcastle United travel to Brentford. It is a good old-fashioned 3:00 kickoff, and it is at the Brentford Community Stadium. It's a new ground for Newcastle fans, and there's only 1,700 of us travelling down. Just the way it is, unfortunately. A lot of people missed out on this one. From NUFC.com, some important news. The postcode for the ground, of course, is TW8ORU. All your away tickets are sold, as I've mentioned, and the Newcastle United fans are going to be in the northeast corner. Now, according to this, access to that is only via the railway bridge from Capital Interchange Way. You cannot directly walk right around the perimeter of the ground. Gunnersby Station is closed after the game. Kew Bridge Station will be open post-match, but crowd control measures attempt to discourage away fans from using it and make the route indirect. So, the 20-minute walk to and from Acton Town on Piccadilly Line is a viable alternative and maybe the quickest route back to King's Cross. Chiswick Park on the District Line is a similar distance. You can go to the TfL Transport Information line and there's links on NUFC.com at the top of their page. You get yourself onto there. If you've never been down to London before, it's always worthwhile planning your journey before you get down, but that's a little bit of information. As for the teams, Kieran Trippier, Matt Ritchie, Callum Wilson, all still unavailable. Javier Manquillo is training again, though, so we're hoping that he could be available. And as we've already mentioned, there's a late call on ASM. Ryan Fraser is also in the party, so fingers crossed he will be okay. And hopefully ASM flies back from Monaco. Ivan Toney has returned to training from injury, and we, as expected, as I mentioned yesterday, I would expect him to play. And there could be a debut for Christian Eriksen as well. Now, Brentford aren't in the best of form at the moment. They've only got 1 point out of the last 21. They've won 4 games, drawn twice, and lost the other 7 at home. Bad news for Newcastle is that Mike Dean is refereeing, and on VAR is Darren England. As always, we have some information from Toon Stato.
Hello, amigos. Difficult times, and football has been overshadowed by what has been happening 300 miles away from where I'm recording this video. So, a message to the people of Ukraine: stay strong, we are with you. And now back to business. It's the historic first top-flight game between Brentford and Newcastle in Brentford. So far, they have played in Brentford only in the second tier of English football. And Brentford have 2 wins and Newcastle have 2 wins. Actually, Brentford won the first 2 games, while Newcastle won the last 2 games. The last one back in 2017 with a late goal by Daryl Murphy. They have played also 2 games for the Cups in Brentford, with Brentford winning both of them. One in the League Cup, everybody remembers it very well from last season with Steve Bruce in charge. And the previous one was back in the 30s in the FA Cup. Now, the good thing about Newcastle and stats in this game is that Newcastle doesn't have a defeat in the last 5 games, both in Newcastle and in Brentford. And overall, as all of us know, we are 6 games unbeaten in the Premier League. Only Manchester United have a better record today with 7 games unbeaten. While Brentford, on the other hand, have no win in 7. And in these last 7 games in the Premier League, they have only 1 draw and 6 defeats. On the other hand, we have Chris Wood still without a goal, chasing his 5th consecutive season to score at least 10 goals. But he's still unbeaten so far in the Premier League in his 5 games with Newcastle. So let's see what happens on Saturday, lads. All the best.
Yes, thinking of you, Andre, mate. I did message him earlier on as well, so hope he's okay. Stay safe, mate. I know you're a bit of a distance away from there, but it is worrying times for everybody the world over. And I'm still going to play the music, even if he's not here. Okay, here it is, another email. Really sorry I can't be with you all tonight after missing last week's game with COVID. I was left breathless and headachy and bereft of energy. Thankfully, I was used to feeling like that, as I've had plenty of conversations with Q-Tip and the Strawberry after the match. In a week where, despite Newcastle's league position looking much healthier than me, I must say that due to events in Ukraine, football really pales into insignificance in comparison. For those who are interested in a bet on the game, Newcastle go to Brentford as ever, slight favourites to win at 2-1, with Brentford being 6-4, and the draw is 11-5. Goals are fancied at 13-10 for the over 2.5 goal line, and just about evens for both teams to score. 1-0 Newcastle is 8-1, 2-0 to Newcastle 14-1, and 3-1 doing a penman is 28-1. 1-0 to Brentford is 7-1, 2-1 to Brentford is 10-1, with the 2-2 draw being 16-1 and 3-3 66-1. Chris Wood is the favourite to score for us at 11-5, with Joe Willock being 10-3, and John Joe is 7-1, and Big Dan Byrne is 16-1. The dangerous Mbuemo is 3-1, and Ivan Toney is 6-5 if he is to play. Food Bank, we finally got the win last week on Joe Willock, which Mr. Hasty can confirm takes the pot to £110. 2 choices this week. I'm sticking with Joe and will do until his run is over. Also, the very impressive Ryan Fraser, who was 9-2. The Toon Tickle, 6-fold Premier League away win special, except Manchester United, who will smash Watford, 133-1. That does mean that, unfortunately, Burnley will win at Palace. Gamble safely and please don't chase your losses. Please take care and spend time sending your love to our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. Thank you, gentlemen. Lots of love. Toon Tipster. Thank you, Toon Tipster, and glad you're over the COVID. Thank you for that. So, lads, it's a 6-pointer, Mitch. It's a big, big game. Newcastle United have to beat Brentford, I think, and if they do, it starts to look as if we're on the way home and safe for another season.
It's a huge game in that what it could do for a league position too. What's happened over the last couple of weeks is that some teams have lost form and other teams have found form, and we're in a situation now that other teams are dragged into this. You've got Everton, you've got Brentford, and you've got Leeds, who are all absolutely bang out of form and sinking like stones and coming towards a bottom 4, 2 of which are in great form. And so we've got an opportunity not just to put more points on the board, but positionally to put ourselves in a position where it just looks so much better. Then it remains in our own hands. Like I said earlier, it's up to us and how badly do we want it. I know again I've got frustrated with reading pundits. Bloody Mark Lawrenson on the BBC website when he does his weekend predictor, and he's saying about the cohesive will and the desire from the fans and the team will make a difference for Brentford in this game. But it's not made as much of a difference in that previous 7 or 8 games. So where's that coming from? Or is it just because you're desperate to see Newcastle lose and get out of form? We've got a real opportunity. We've got a unity and a positivity going on within the squad. We stick a performance out like we've been putting out of late, and in the form Brentford are in, I can't see how they can live with that.
Yeah, Steve, it's no surprise to see Ivan Toney back in. No,
not whatsoever. He had a good game when he was up here in November, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He scored. He was a handful. Lascelles didn't know how to handle him. He gave him a right run around. He's one of those players that when he's on his game, he's on it 90 minutes. And he's barnstorming, and he likes to get stuck in. And I'm not being funny, but he wasn't like that at Newcastle, and there's a reason why we got rid of him.
Yeah,
he's a totally different footballer now to the one that we had back in the day. But you know what? We are the informed team, and they're the out of form team. And I know that there's this added pressure that comes with being out of form. And I think that the bubble around Brentford that was there in November and around the manager and everything that was going on, and the fact that the way that they came up in the playoffs, and it was a fairy tale, a new ground. Everything was happening for them, and an owner and everybody was saying was super dynamic. But the wheels have come off recently, and we are the form team, and I'm expecting us to be able to show that we've got something about us tomorrow that keeps the unbeaten run going. I'll put it that way, and I suspect we'll come out with 3 points. Because it's well, we are. What can I say? That it's just the way that the league is playing out at the moment. Teams dropping. It's the bottom of the league is far more competitive than the top of the league, and I think it's going to carry on like that all the way through. You've got Norwich at the bottom, you've got Watford at the bottom, you've got us, you've got Everton, Burnley. Leeds, Brentford will be dragged into it tomorrow if they don't pick up points, and it's great. It's great for the armchair fan. It's not so good for the heart if you're one of the teams that's down there. But we're the form team, so bring it on.
Yeah, we are the form team. Bring it on. We'll come to the predictions towards the end of the programme as usual. Mitch, looking at the table now, it's 7 or 8 teams dragged into this relegation battle. Who's your bottom 3 now?
Right now, Norwich, Watford, and I've got a sneaking fancy speaking to the Leeds lads here and looking at how they're playing, looking at the absolute shellacking they took off Liverpool, because I mean it was 6 now, but it could have been 10. If Liverpool wanted to, they could have gone into double figures quite comfortably. They're still struggling with injuries. They seem to get 2 players back and then lose another 2 players. There's doubts over Bielsa's future, and that's creating a little bit of a furore in the background, and that's not what you need when you're in a relegation fight. And also, from Bielsa's point of view, if he's not going to sign a new contract, I'm quite sure the guy's totally and 100% totally professional, and he's loved at Leeds. I know he is. But you know, if he's made his mind up, he's not signing another contract. There's another possible wild card into the thinking behind the scenes. So I'd stick Leeds as my 3rd. I don't want to, because I've got a soft spot for them because I watched lots of their games with them. But the way they're playing at the minute, and like I say, that shellacking off Liverpool could have had double figures easy.
Got to be honest, I'm the same. I think Leeds, Norwich, and Watford are the teams to go. Everton are going to be in and around it, but I think they'll get away. Burnley and Newcastle, I think, will get well clear. Steve Hasty, what about you?
I have this strange feeling about Everton. I'm looking at the fixtures that are coming up. I mean, they've got a couple of games to be rearranged. They've got Burnley to be confirmed, and they've got the Leicester game to be confirmed. But Man City tomorrow, and then they've got Spurs, then they've got Wolves, then they've got us, then they've got Watford, then they've got West Ham, and then they've got Man United. That's the next 7 fixtures. And you know what? I wouldn't want those fixtures if I was an Evertonian. I'm looking at the games tomorrow, and we've got Brentford, obviously. Brighton are playing Villa, Palace playing Burnley, Man United at Watford, and as I say, Everton at City. And then next weekend, you've got Burnley have got Chelsea, while we've got Brighton. Norwich and Brentford play each other. Leeds have got Leicester away, and I think Watford have got Arsenal. So this is the point: this to win tomorrow, and then the fixtures, the results go our way, and then you've got next weekend with Brighton, who got an absolute hammering in midweek off Burnley, and you're thinking to yourself, there's a gap can open here. The door's open, and we can get through that door now. Especially when you see the fixtures coming up for other teams that are out of form. That's why, and I know where you come from, Mitch, on Leeds, because they nothing seems to be going right. They seem to be one of those teams that can either play brilliantly and surprise everyone, or they'll take a hammering like they did in midweek.
They're in a position at the minute, mate, like the other night. When they get beat, they really get thumped.
Yes,
and it doesn't look good.
Yeah, and that's why it's going. I think that's why we're both saying it's one of those two, and for different reasons. It's slightly heading down a different path at the moment. But when those 7 fixtures are out the way, then we'll see where we really are, and that's why I think Everton are really, really struggling.
Yano says he's expecting a completely unexpected change tomorrow. Bruno into midfield, Willock pushed forward, massive game. Really hope ASM makes the starting lineup. Tim Cairns also reckons 2-0 tomorrow, Bruno to make a decent show. Are we going to unleash Bruno, do you think?
Good question. I think I'd love to, based on the cameo he's had so far. But how do you justify putting him in the way the midfield's been playing? But then again, that's why Eddie Howe's paid the big bucks, and I'm sitting at the bar talking nonsense. You know, I'd like to see him introduced for longer, because by God, he's looked sublime in the very little cameos we've had. And then you think, what more could we potentially get out of a player like this? And what can he add to the work rate and the drive that we've already got going on? Howe doesn't seem to be one for making random left field chopping and changing, though. He seems to like solidity. He seems to like running with what works. So I think until we either look at an injury or a drop in form, I suspect for me, Bruno's still going to be warming the bench, champing at the bit to get on. Because if you look at him, the minute he's sent out to warm up, he spends about 80% of his time looking at Eddie Howe along the lines of "Send us on, boss. Send us on, boss."
Yeah, Steve, time to unleash Bruno.
Again, would love to think so, but it's a case of who steps out. I was saying Murphy, who had a good game last week, put in more tackles than I've ever seen him put in his life.
Mate, his tackles and stats are ridiculous, man. Yeah. For the amount of time he's had on the pitch. Yeah. There was somebody put up something about amount of tackles per 30 minutes, and he was way in front by about 50%.
Exactly. And these are the things that often don't get noticed about players that come in like Murphy. Is it Fraser that goes out? Is it because he's carrying an injury? I mean, he came up, pulled up with cramp, and then what looks like a slight calf strain.
Covered some ground against West Ham, didn't he? I mean, jeez.
And I think we covered this in midweek. The only criticism and it's criticism in inverted commas. The only observation, probably is a better word to use, that I have with Howe is that his management of his substitutions, they seem to come later than I would like to see because of what I'm seeing on the pitch. He obviously sees different things and he gets different messages from his coaching team and from his medical team if somebody's gone down. But I thought that perhaps Fraser in particular was on a little too long and could have come off slightly earlier and could have made the change earlier. And I also thought that Murphy had ran himself into the ground. And what you notice with especially a player like Murphy, who hasn't had that many 90-minute run-outs, you notice that the concentration goes, and so does that pass. So the passes suddenly start to go to the opposition. There's slight weakness in the passing, and that's when I'm looking and I'm thinking, time for it to make a change. Bring fresh legs on, bring a fresh brain on, because often it's mentally as well as physically that they're exhausted. But Bruno, he looks the part. We've all said it. And yes, you're right. He's champing at the bit, and he's constantly looking at the like a lapdog waiting for the ball to be put down in front of him. It's great, and this is something that we've got a £40 million player sitting on the bench waiting to be unleashed. I hope for the travelling fans that they see more of him than they have seen so far, because obviously you're seeing 4 minutes, 5 minute cameo roles, and if he is going to come on and he is going to play a part, I'm hoping that if he's starting on the bench, that we'll see a little bit more of him before the last 5 minutes, and then the board going up telling you you've got 3 minutes left in time added on for stoppages.
Yeah, Bearded Meatball on Twitter. He says, "Hi guys, it was my photo of meeting Krull and Santon and Thomas Cook. They were doing a signing. I certainly didn't follow them in." He says, "Thank you for showing my picture. I'm chuffed." So no problem, mate. Thank you very much for sending it in. And already the lookalikes are flying in as well for next week. Great stuff. Thanks for everybody's.
Yes, they're all not.
It's great. There's some great ones already for next week, and lots of people commenting about Everton thinking they're going to go down. Just to let you know as well, I've got a new link up with somebody coming up over the next month or so, and it's a memorabilia company called Football Prizes. They've been in touch with us. This link will go up on my Twitter after the show. Goes live at 7:30. But there's a signed and framed Newcastle United shirt up for grabs, signed by Saint-Maximin. Well, he's probably signed it this week when he's had nothing to do. But you enter the Football Prizes, £3.95 a go, and get give it a go. It's worth a gamble of £3.95 to see if you can win the top. I'll put the link up on my Twitter. I'll give you a rundown of this again next week. But a chance to win a bit of history. And I think he's got a few shirts coming up. I think one of them's Trippier's as well, which I would imagine will do really, really well. But thanks for reaching out, guys. I will stick the link up. And if you want to buy stuff on there as well, they've offered us a discount code as well, because I think you can just buy memorabilia on this website as well. So yeah, have a look. And I will put that on my Twitter later, and I'll give it a shout out on all the shows coming up over the next week. Okay then, lads. Let's have a couple of predictions off you. Mitch, have you got the lucky dice or not? Because you're in the shed.
I have.
You've got the lucky dice. Go for it.
Stuck it in my bag, and the dice says 0-0.
Ooh, 0-0. Very good.
That would help neither of us, but never mind.
As long as we don't get beat against Brentford, it doesn't matter. We've got 2 games in hand.
I guess.
And a draw would be a good result. And not conceding any goals would be a good result. So I wouldn't be too disappointed. Steve, what's your prediction?
I think there'll be goals, just like there was in the preceding fixture in November. It did finish 3-3. I think there'll be goals, and I think that we'll come out on top 3-2.
Okay, I've gone for a 1-0, as I did last night. I think Newcastle will win. I think Chris Wood will get the goal, and I think it'll be 1-0 to Newcastle.
That would be fantastic.
Well, it will be, yeah. That would be ideal. That would be a great result. Before we get to our final part of the show, don't forget I am back tomorrow morning, albeit it was pre-recorded today, with Steve Howe, who gives his dream team and looks ahead to the game against Brentford. Also gives us his views on the new owner, the new manager, and the new players. Great to chat with Steve again. Great to have him on the show. It's well worth a watch. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, just for an hour, gets you set up nicely for the game. But now, as always, Julie, I never ever let you down. It's Troll of the Week. 2 mild ones this week. This was on a T-shirt, the T-shirt that we're actually putting out there to try and raise money for the food bank. And I just had that underneath it. You're an actual moron. Marvellous. I just picked that one because of the use of the word moron doesn't often get thrown around these days. Bring back the word moron. And this one, I did laugh at this. I put a photograph up of Kell Brook after the fight, and Arthur Daly, I'm sure that isn't his name or his profile picture, put, Alexa, show me a photograph where somebody poses for a photograph without knowing who he's standing with. I did laugh. Very, very funny. Very funny. But as always, there was quite a few bits of abuse flying around, but I did pick the 2 funnier ones. But there you are, Julie. Okay,
go on. A huge thanks to Steve Howe as well. He I don't know if people are aware, but he was part of a walk where they walked across the country in one of those country walks, and they raised £5,000, and he donated it to the Newcastle United, or Newcastle Food Bank and Sunderland Food Bank in midweek, where he met the staff. Fantastic, great to do that. And it shows the calibre of ex-players, current players who support the food bank, and supporters in Newcastle United who support the food bank, and Sunderland, by the way, because the money went, and there's a lot of work gets done at the Sunderland Food Bank and the Gateshead Food Bank, and people down at Waitley Bay as well. So anyone who wants to do anything and it's not their particular area, it doesn't have to be through the Newcastle Food Bank, but great gesture by Steve, and to all the other lads who were taking part in that. Huge thanks.
Yeah, great stuff. And the T-shirt was won by George Hayes. We didn't get anybody surpassing £350. So £350 to the food bank for that T-shirt. I don't have a T-shirt for next week, John. So you need to send us one, unless you sent us it earlier in the week and I've completely missed it because of visits to hospital, etc. But if you can resend it, mate, and I can get that up on Twitter. But well done, George Hayes, £350 already in the food bank account. And that is a very great gesture indeed. Well, that's it, lads. 5 minutes early. We'll finish 5 minutes. We've earned a little bit of a break, and Mitch is on the drink. So, and I might go and have a drink now as well. I need it after the week and a half I've had.
So you've earned it, mate. You've earned it.
But thanks as always, lads. Great to see you, and I'll see you for the show on Wednesday. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Brilliant.
Cheers, lads.
Best lads.
Thanks to all our sponsors. First up, Spider VPN for all your internet security. Google Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. They come up at the top of the Google network search. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay as you go. Waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 0191 389 7245. And to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to Arcot Interiors, you can Google them and they come up at the top of the search list also. You can also find them on Heaton Road and they are currently hiring and looking for fitters. So contact Arcot Interiors if you are available to help them with that particular trade. qtechshop.co.uk are the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and also the guys who run our website. Jab Signature, you can find them at jabsignature.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all of our video editing. And thank you to newworkwear.com, the specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, for providing me with my new jacket. And if you want to subscribe to the show, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week and we do some true crime stuff as well. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, click share to your social media and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to leave a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify and other podcast providers. If you put your phone over this QR code, it will take you straight to our website and you become a Newcastle and NUFC Matters member. You get a cup, you get a pen, you get a scarf and entered into our monthly draw where you can win some fantastic prizes. We also do live events and each pre-match and post-match you can find us at the Dog and Parrot, and Super Mac gives us a talk about the game ahead. There is good beer and there is good music and there is a pool table and kids are welcome. So get yourself along to the Dog and Parrot each match day in Newcastle City Centre. We also support the food bank on this channel, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. You can find the Matchday Bucket, which is operational 365 days of the year, and you can make a virtual deposit. If you want to find us on Facebook, then just search NUFC Matters. We have a page and a group. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, search Steve Wraith. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, search @Steve Wraith.